2018 marks a historic year in the annals of St. Thomas's College as it celebrates 100 years in Mount Lavinia. Our alma mater has endured throughout time and stood firm in a world where the only constant has been change. From the day our founding fathers laid the foundation for the school, St. Thomas's College has given back to society 100-fold in the form of responsible corporate citizens which Sri Lanka can be proud of. Founded in 1851 in Mutwal, St. Thomas relocated to Mount Lavinia in 1918. Now, as we celebrate 100 years in Mount Lavinia and look back upon the great years gone by, we must bring our attention to the next 100 years for this elite institution. Change is inevitable. As more and more young Thomians come into college, blissfully unaware of what the future holds for them, we, as the wider Thomian fraternity, have a responsibility toward our alma mater, which nurtured us and turned us from boys to men. We must ensure that the traditions that have been bestowed upon us are carried forward to the next generation. Gentlemen, St. Thomas's needs you. Let us give back to college and ensure that the beautiful traditions that made us men and gentlemen continue in the years to come. Let's rally round our flag for another 100 years and paint young Thomian hearts in blue and black. Let the echoes ring loudly for all we have and are. When we are long gone, and the only thing that will remain of us is a memory, we need to ensure that St. Thomas's stands firm and every year will put forth responsible Thomian citizens into society. Marks a historic year in the annals of St. Thomas's College as it celebrates 100 years in Mount Lavinia. Our alma mater has endured throughout time and stood firm in a world where the only constant has been change. From the day our founding fathers laid the foundation for the school, St. Thomas's College has given back to society 100-fold in the form of responsible corporate citizens which Sri Lanka can be proud of. Founded in 1851 in Mutwal, St. Thomas relocated to Mount Lavinia in 1918. Now, as we celebrate 100 years in Mount Lavinia and look back upon the great years gone by, we must bring our attention to the next 100 years for this elite institution. Change is inevitable. As more and more young Thomians come into college, blissfully unaware of what the future holds for them, we, as the wider Thomian fraternity, have a responsibility toward our alma mater, which nurtured us and turned us from boys to men. We must ensure that the traditions that have been bestowed upon us are carried forward to the next generation. Gentlemen, St. Thomas's needs you. Let us give back to college and ensure that the beautiful traditions that made us men and gentlemen continue in the years to come. Let's rally round our flag for another 100 years and paint young Thomian hearts in blue and black. Let the echoes ring loudly for all we have and are. When we are long gone, and the only thing that will remain of us is a memory, we need to ensure that St. Thomas's stands firm and every year will put forth responsible Thomian citizens into society. 2018 marks a historic year in the annals of St. Thomas's College as it celebrates 100 years in Mount Lavinia. Our alma mater has endured throughout time and stood firm in a world where the only constant has been change. From the day our founding fathers laid the foundation for the school, St. Thomas's College has given back to society 100-fold in the form of responsible corporate citizens which Sri Lanka can be proud of. Founded in 1851 in Mutwal, St. Thomas relocated to Mount Lavinia in 1918. Now, as we celebrate 100 years in Mount Lavinia and look back upon the great years gone by, we must bring our attention to the next 100 years for this elite institution. Change is inevitable. As more and more young Tomians come into college, blissfully unaware of what the future holds for them, we, as the wider Tomian fraternity, have a responsibility toward our alma mater, which nurtured us and turned us from boys to men. We must ensure that the traditions that have been bestowed upon us are carried forward to the next generation. Gentlemen, St. Thomas's needs you. Let us give back to college and ensure that the beautiful traditions that made us men and gentlemen continue in the years to come. Let's rally round our flag for another 100 years and paint young Tomian hearts in blue and black. Let the echoes ring loudly for all we have and are. When we are long gone, and the only thing that will remain of us is a memory, we need to ensure that St. Thomas's stands firm and every year will put forth responsible Tomian citizens into society. Marks a historic year in the annals of St. Thomas's College as it celebrates 100 years in Mount Lavinia. Our alma mater has endured throughout time and stood firm in a world where the only constant has been change. From the day our founding fathers laid the foundation for the school, St. Thomas's College has given back to society 100-fold in the form of responsible corporate citizens which Sri Lanka can be proud of. Founded in 1851 in Mutwal, St. Thomas relocated to Mount Lavinia in 1918. Now, as we celebrate 100 years in Mount Lavinia and look back upon the great years gone by, we must bring our attention to the next 100 years for this elite institution. Change is inevitable. As more and more young Tomians come into college, blissfully unaware of what the future holds for them, we, as the wider Tomian fraternity, have a responsibility toward our alma mater, which nurtured us and turned us from boys to men. We must ensure that the traditions that have been bestowed upon us are carried forward to the next generation. Gentlemen, St. Thomas's needs you. Let us give back to college and ensure that the beautiful traditions that made us men and gentlemen continue in the years to come. Let's rally round our flag for another 100 years and paint young Tomian hearts in blue and black. Let the echoes ring loudly for all we have and are.
Fifth Bishop of Colombo is being unveiled by the Venerable Patrick Fernando, Emeritus Archdeacon of Gaul and the most senior Thomian Anglican priest. Bishop Copleston was a pillar of strength to Warden Stone during the transfer of college from Mutwal to Mount Lavinia in 1918 and was personally instrumental in securing a large portion of the property on which this campus now stands for the new college. Simultaneously, the bust of Warden W.A. Stone is being unveiled by Mr. Esmond Satrasinghe, representing the most senior Old Thomians. Reverend William Arthur Stone had been Warden of St. Thomas's College for 17 years before he effectively transplanted the college to Mount Lavinia at the end of 1917 and began the school there on the 26th of January, 1918, exactly 100 years ago today. He continued to serve as warden until 1925 and is the second longest serving warden of the college. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand as our guests come into the hall and remain standing for the lighting of the traditional oil lamp. To light the oil lamp, I would like to invite the Lord Bishop of Colombo and our visitor, Right Reverend Diloraj Kanagasabe. Representing the Warden's Special Events Team, Major General Wijegunawardena. And representing the entire student body, the current head prefect of the college, S.D.S. Sansoni. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I now invite our chaplain, Father Amal, to lead us in prayer by using Warden Wood's prayer for the college.
May we all stand. Let us spend a moment in silence to observe our own faiths, beliefs, and religions. Let us pray. O God, from whom comes every good and perfect gift, send your blessing, we pray, on this school. Grant that all who are engaged here as teachers may fulfill their duties faithfully and with joy. And to them who are learners, grant, we pray, willing and obedient hearts, so that they may receive rightly the instructions offered them and be formed to become faithful members of your church and citizens of this nation, and to do their duty in those stations of life to which you will be pleased to call them. Grant that all who assemble here may learn to respect each other, but above all, look with reverence to you, their Father in heaven, that they may live together in peace, unity, and love. And as they grow in years, may grow in grace and in favor both with you and all people, so that at last we may all be joined together again in your heavenly kingdom, there to live with you forever and ever, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Please be seated.
Thank you, Father. I now invite our warden to give the welcome address.
My Lord Bishop, Most Venerable Agra Mahapandita Kotugoda Dhammawasa Mahanayaka Thera of the Amarapura chapter, Venerable Sugatananda Thera, Venerable Archdeacons and other members of the clergy, members of the Board of Governors, Headmaster of St. Thomas's College at Guruthalawa, Venerable S.P. Nesakumar, former wardens, Dr. David Ponnaya and Professor N.G.R. de Soisa, former sub-wardens, retired members of staff, other distinguished guests and special invitees, sub-warden, present members of staff, all boys, present boys of the school, ladies and gentlemen. It is with absolute joy and great pride that I welcome all of you this morning to this special General Assembly of the entire school to celebrate 100 years of presence by St. Thomas's College in Mount Lavinia. We decided this year that we would have all our boys, even the youngest ones, because at some point it is these boys present in the school on the 26th of January 2018 who will one day form the new Centenary group of St. Thomas's College, Mount Lavinia. It is started preparing for these celebrations from January 2017, but I wish to very briefly in this welcome place before you some salient points of interest on this occasion. As we all know, St. Thomas's College was founded at Mutwal in 1851 by the Right Reverend James Chapman, the first Anglican Bishop of Colombo. At the time, Mutwal was the most fashionable part of Colombo and was where all the elite and worthies of the Crown Colony of Ceylon resided, including the British Governor, the Chief Justice, and the other officials. There is, however, an interesting fact that is often missed, connecting our founder with Mount Lavinia. Bishop Chapman had been a student and later a master at Eton College. On his arrival in Ceylon on the 7th of November 1845, even before a cathedral, he had dreamed of starting a school. And in a letter written quite soon after he had arrived in Colombo, the new bishop has expressed his vision in this way: "Education must be the great work for me to look to lay the foundation if I can, and leave others to build hereafter." But what is of great importance is what comes next in his letter. Because he writes, "For this purpose I have set my heart on Mount Lavinia, about 7 miles away, on the point of the only headland on the coast. It is a massive and noble but deserted building, the house built there some time before for the governor, and that is today the Mount Lavinia Hotel, is now in private hands. For 2,500 I might secure it for a college already built, and for 500 more I could adapt it for all our needs." His dream had to be put on hold as he did not have sufficient funds, and he built the school at Mutwal, but the rest, as they say, is history. For the first 67 years, the college grew and evolved at Mutwal under the leadership of great men of learning, starting with Warden C.W. Wood. Extracurricular activities became part and parcel of the education that was imparted at STC from those early days. The college choir made its debut in 1854. The English Drama Society was founded in 1872 by Warden Bacon. The college magazine in 1875 by Sub-Warden Faulkner. The English Literary and Debating Society in 1879 by Reverend A.W. DeMel. And sports were also encouraged, such as cricket, introduced by the founder himself, who had been an avid fan of the game while at Eton College. Despite those early years of success, the school went through a number of periods of turmoil in the early days following Bishop Chapman. And when Warden Miller took over in 1878, he found the school at the lowest depths of adversity in terms of both human resources as well as financial resources. And the warden, like many wardens after him, including myself, had to launch many fundraising appeals to ensure that the school continued to function. With patience and faith and courage, Warden Miller secured the fortunes of the college thanks to the support and solidarity of many friends and individuals who came forward with endowments and grants to help the school out of the dire financial straits. And by the time he retired in 1891, the school was once more on a firm footing and an even keel. Despite those trials and tribulations of the Miller years, there were many developments that took place. In 1880, the first Royal Thomaian cricket encounter in which only boys represented the two schools was played. In 1884, the college colors of blue, black and blue were introduced by the warden. He also introduced in that year the house prefect system for the boarding houses. And in 1886, he founded the Old Boys Association that is today perhaps one of the oldest school alumni associations in the world. Warden Miller's successors were blessed to have followed him in office, for he left behind a secure school. The one thing he had not been able to provide a solution for was to the problem created by the growth of the school student population, resulting in the obvious lack of space. And this was compounded by the later, more serious problem of the coal dust from the harbor that first raised its head during the last years of the tenure of Warden Buck, when coal sheds were constructed within a short distance from the school to supply ships coming into the Colombo harbor that had begun to increase towards the end of the 19th century. And so when Warden Stone assumed duties at the end of 1901, the problems had just got worse. By the second decade of the new century, the bishop, the warden, and the trustees of the college had begun to seriously consider a move from Mutwal. In 1913, in the school inspector's report, the following observation has been recorded. It is becoming next to impossible to carry on the work owing to the coaling jetties at the further end of the harbor and to the noise from the works. The dust from the former covers everything. I look forward to seeing one of the oldest schools in Ceylon transferred at no distant date to a site more adapted for its purposes. Despite the challenges, Warden Stone led the battered school onward, and life went on with significant achievements being recorded in academic and extracurricular activities, even after the First World War had started. By the end of 1915, the doom of the old college was sealed, as W.T. Keeble has written. The property at Mutwal was sold, the new site at Mount Lavinia was purchased, ironically within walking distance from the site originally considered by the founder here at Mount Lavinia. By 1916, the main classroom block was almost complete and was soon followed by the science laboratory. At the end of 1917, during the Christmas vacation, the college was moved to the new site at Mount Lavinia, where work commenced with an act of dedication by the bishop on 26 January 1918. Since then, 100 years have gone by with the school here at Mount. No less wonderful years, no less growth and flourishing under 11 great wardens. Years definitely marked by successes in academic pursuits, sports and games, and other extracurricular activities. Certainly there were also many storms to be weathered and failures to be overcome, but there have been great years, no less golden than the 67 that went before. Each of the decades have witnessed much history. Whether they were the 20s under Warden Stone and Warden Macpherson, when the new school took shape with sturdy, impressive buildings, including the chapel, and institutions such as the Board of Governors coming into being. Or whether it was the 26 years that Warden Dicerum held sway, that witnessed the disruption of World War II, the founding of the 3 branch schools, the achievement of private fee-levying school status, and the achievement of excellence in every sphere. Or whether it was the 1960s under Wardens Davidson and Selvaratnam, when the school faced challenges of nationalism with fortitude and courage. Or the 1970s under Wardens Anandanayake and Ilangakun, when the education system in Sri Lanka was in the throes of chaos. But STC stood firm in the midst of the changing scenes. Or whether it was the great years of the 80s and 90s, when Warden Dialvis built not just buildings, but also for 16 years presided over the achievement of excellence in academia, sports, and discipline. Or the first decades of the 21st century, when Warden Ponnaya and Warden Padifoot ran the school at a time when radical changes took place in the field of education. Or subsequently, in more contemporary times, under the leadership of Warden N.G.R, who brought fresh international perspectives to the running of the school, St. Thomas's College has thrived and grown at Mount Lavinia. We have enjoyed the thrill of victory. We have endured the agony of defeat. We have celebrated great achievements, but we have also mourned failures and shortcomings. We have, through it all, attempted to be faithful to Bishop Chapman's vision of sending out from our portals men of character to take on the changing systems of the world. And we have contributed to our nation and to the world in every sphere of life. From 4 prime ministers in independent Sri Lanka to numerous public servants, members of the judiciary, healthcare services, clergy, professions, the triforces and the police, the corporate and private sectors, the diplomatic service, and numerous other fields, St. Thomas's has produced outstanding leaders and decent men who have added flavor to the social fabric of this and many other nations. Some representatives of these men will stand before you today to share their thoughts with you, and I am very grateful to them for having accepted my invitation to speak at this event. The Sub-Warden will be making a fuller vote of thanks at the end of the proceedings. But I must at this point say a very big word of thanks to all those who have helped me to organize the events of this morning. I am not going to thank any individuals as such, but I need to mention 2 very important groups without which this centenary celebration would not have been observed as we are doing today. Led by the Sub-Warden, my staff and prefects, together with the different groups of students, have contributed immensely to every aspect of this morning's arrangements, as well as other events throughout last year. If there have been any flaws, I crave your indulgence. I must also thank, secondly, my special events team, coordinated by Bertel. When I asked them to come back into service at the end of 2016 after a break, they came forward unstintingly. There have been a solid support network behind me since that time, and as we began preparations to observe this milestone in the life of our alma mater. Tomorrow, you will witness the full impact of the work of the Special Events Committee, and more specifically, the All Thomian Cadet Union that is coordinating the Thomian Parade for us. On the 17th of February, those who have been fortunate enough to secure tickets for the Centenary Gala dinner will see another superlative effort by a Special Events Team subcommittee. There is nothing that a group of committed Thomian old boys cannot achieve for their alma mater if they have the will to do so. Thank you one and all. And remember, good work is rewarded with opportunities for more good work. 100 years, a century of faithful service to God, to church, and to nation. We celebrate this milestone with thanksgiving and with rededication to furthering the ideals and the vision with which the school was started at Mutwal in 1851 and Mount Lavinia in 1918. In 1849, when he laid the foundation stone for the school at Mutwal, Bishop Chapman spoke these words, and with these I end. In building for God, in working, in spending for God, we run no venture, we hazard no loss, we cherish no vague or uncertain hopes. Though unseen, when grounded on true faith, hope is never unreal. Enduring works are often of humble beginnings. This has been true of St. Thomas's College throughout our history, and no less true of the past century that we celebrate today. I want to thank you all for being with us this morning to celebrate with the present generation of Thomians. I want to thank the Lord Bishop and the members of the board for being with us and the old boy community. I want to thank our friends, our neighbors who have joined us, very especially the Mahanaika of the Amarapura chapter who is with us this morning on his birthday, and we wish him well for being with us on this special day in his own life. All of us are gathered to celebrate, and I thank you all for being here, and I hope that through this assembly we will rekindle our oneness as a Thomian family. Esto perpetua.
Thank you, Warden, sir. Our first special speaker for this event represents a Thomian student community from 1940 to 1950, Air Chief Marshal Deshamanya P.H. Mendis, who was the first Thomian commander of the Sri Lankan Air Force. Air Chief Marshal Mendis attended St. Thomas's College in Pereira and Guruthalava when the college premises at Mount Lavinia was requisitioned during the Second World War by the Royal Army. He returned to the campus in Mount Lavinia after the war in 1946. He joined the Sri Lankan Air Force as a cadet pilot in 1951 and graduated from the Royal Air Force College in Cranwell and trained as a fighter pilot at Royal Air Force Merrifield, Somerset in 1954. In 1970, he was appointed the commander of the Air Force. He has also served as the advisor to the government of Maldives upon the establishment of Air Maldives. Member of the Reserve Affairs Council of the Ministry of Defense, Commissioner of Civil Defense and Chairman of Civil Aviation Authority. In 2005, he was awarded the Deshamanya Medal for his services to the nation. It is with great pride that I invite Air Chief Marshal Deshamanya P.H. Mendis to address us this morning.
Lord Bishop, Warden, staff, and students of St. Thomas's, ladies and gentlemen. I must thank the Warden for having invited me here today on the 100th anniversary of the college moving to Mount Lavinia and for requesting me to say a few words. This is not the first time that I have been allowed to talk to you, but the previous occasions were as a junior officer in the Air Force trying to get more recruits into the Air Force. However, today is different. I have been requested to talk to you about my days in college, the lessons learned, and how it has impacted on my life. It is now almost 70 years since I left college, and the times are so different that I should also address you not as students, but as our future leaders. And I will try to tell you what I was before, during, and after my days at St. Thomas's. I hope that what I have to say will have an impact on you. I had started schooling at Ladies' College and later attended Royal Prep. But soon war broke out and I was taken out of Royal and sent to St. Thomas's, Pereira. We lived at Pereira in a boarding house and shared the classrooms at Kingswood. It was here at Pereira, as a very young boy, that I learned to live with others of different backgrounds. We were not interested in race, religion, language, etc., but we all played, studied, ate, and lived together as one happy family, until the floods destroyed our boarding and I was sent to St. Thomas's, Guruthalava. At Guruthalava, I had taken part in all sports and in fact helped to build the cricket grounds. It was here at Guruthalava that I found what it was like to live and work together with other students, to give and to take and accept things which we did not always want. These were the first lessons in discipline. Dr. R.L. Heyman and Reverend A.J. Foster were very helpful. I am not sure, but I think it was Warden Stone, who, when asked whether St. Thomas's gave a good education, replied that the education at St. Thomas's is as good or as bad as any other college, but we produce gentlemen. In my early days at college, I used to get into all sorts of problems and scrapes, no doubt. We were happy-go-lucky boys doing what we wanted when we wanted. We had classes called civics and ethics. And I do remember our teacher, Mr. C.R. Wise, talking to us on democracy. He called it freedom, freedom of speech, etc. But he said that though one had the freedom to wave his walking stick, that freedom ends where your nose begins. That, in short, was to teach us that we must conduct ourselves with consideration for others, and that freedom was not the freedom of the ass. I have heard many definitions of discipline, but the one that I like most is that discipline is what turns a rebel mob into an organized society with a purpose and an aim. Just as much as it takes only a small seed to grow into a big tree which serves mankind, it takes only one simple incident to turn a person onto the path of discipline. In my case, that incident took place right here in college. One morning in 1949, I was walking from the classroom block across the quadrangle, and as we passed the flagstaff in the center of the quadrangle, Warden Diaz called me by name and signaled me to come. I nodded my head and walked up to the warden. On arrival, he told me to see him in his office after assembly. On arrival at the office, he asked me to hold the wall and proceeded to give me 4 cuts with his cane. I was shocked and angry. What was that for? What had I done? And then the warden said, "Mendes, when I call you, you stop everything and you come running. Understand?" That, gentleman, was when I realized what discipline was. A few months later, I had left college and joined the Air Force and was sailing to the UK to be trained at the RAF College. The warden's words were to come in very handy. The training at Cranwell was very tough. I had to do tasks that I never expected. I thought I had gone to England only to fly aeroplanes. But we had to wash and polish floors and keep our billets and gardens clean. It was here in the junior entries at Cranwell, which, if not for Warden Diaz' caning and the lesson in discipline, I probably would have disobeyed an order. One morning, Flight Sergeant Harvey told me that the toilet was blocked and to clear it. I had no alternative but to put my hand in. I found no blockage. He then asked me to pull the chain and flush it, which I did, and it worked. I was livid. but Flight Sergeant Harvey calmly told me that he had served in India and was aware of our social customs and standards, and that when I go back to my country and order an airman to do anything, remember that you have done it yourself. I graduated from the RAF College in April, and after 6 months of flying jets, I returned to Sri Lanka in October 1954. After diligent and hard work, I went up the career ladder. My early training at St. Thomas's and Cranwell had been put to good use, and with the leadership qualities I had acquired over the years, I was promoted to being the commander of the Air Force. It is now over 40 years since my retirement from the Air Force. At that time, we were a highly disciplined society. We were led by persons of the caliber of Diaz Senanayake, Dudley Senanayake, SWRD Senanayake, Sir John Kotalawala, Colvin de Silva, N.M. Pereira, etc. Ceylon had the best civil servants who had been selected after a very competitive exam. We were a prosperous and developing nation. When Singapore gained independence in 1960s, Lee Kuan Yew remarked that he would like to develop Singapore like Ceylon. But in 1980, General Sepal Artigala was sent to Singapore to study the development programs in Singapore. After 4 or 5 days of hard work, when General Artigala called on Lee Kuan Yew to say farewell, he was asked how he had enjoyed his holiday. The general said, "Sir, it was no holiday, it was hard work." And Lee Kuan Yew replied, "Yes, General, but unless you can bring discipline into your society, it will only be a holiday." That, gentlemen, is the value of discipline. Without discipline, you will not have development, but only willful defiance of authority, lawlessness, protests by unruly mobs, chaos, crime, and other unwanted occurrences, which makes us ashamed. Since my retirement, I have seen a serious loss of discipline and its results. Every morning when I wake up, have my coffee, and read the newspapers, I no longer get angry. I seem to have grown immune to what is happening. At my age, there is nothing more that I can do. But I do pray. I pray for better days that I have seen as a young man. As I said at the beginning, I address you not as recruits, but as our future leaders. There is so much to be done in the several multitasks that make a nation. We need good leaders in all disciplines, whether it be in medicine, law, business, administration, you name it. It does not matter what discipline you choose, but the qualities of leadership remain the same. Leadership has to be cultivated and practiced. A good leader must have, in addition to his professional knowledge, motivation and discipline, with impeccable integrity and a vision for the nation. I sincerely hope you will meet these requirements. Thank you. May God bless you.
Thank you, sir, for those inspiring words. We now have our second speaker, Mr. W.T. Ellawala. Mr. Ellawala had the distinction of being the head prefect of the college from 1957 to 1958. He graduated from the University of Ceylon in Pereira in 1962. He is currently the managing director of Ceylon Trading Company Limited and is also the chairman and CEO of T.W. Mackey Group of Companies. He has also served as the chairman of Janashakti Insurance and director of Brook Bond Ceylon Limited. He was a member of the committee of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce for 18 consecutive years, an honorary member of the Ceylon Tea Traders Association, and a special advisor to the Ministry of Shipping and Ports, to name a few. I would now like to call upon Mr. W.T. Ellawala to speak a few words.
Keep it. Lordship, the Bishop of Colombo, Warden, Reverend Mark Bilimoria, venerable members of the clergy, distinguished members of the Board of Governors, distinguished old boys, members of the college tutorial staff, and the boys of St. Thomas's College. Reverend Mark Bilimoria, Warden of St. Thomas's College, I deeply appreciate the honor of being asked today to address the ceremonial assembly arranged to commemorate 100 years of having moved the college from Mutwal to Mount Lavinia. Having moved the college from Mutwal to Mount Lavinia, the decision to move the college from Mutwal in the city of Colombo to a suburb of Colombo would have been a very bold and courageous decision. Particularly as would have been considered more fashionable to relocate perhaps in a bigger location in the city of Colombo than elsewhere, particularly to a suburb. But this was the outlook of a visionary Warden Stone, whose aim was to locate St. Thomas's in an environment that had the potential of creating a college campus in keeping with the architectural styles of a traditional English public school. The layout of the buildings and the architectural designs fitted nicely with Warden Stone's idea of creating a college campus that envisaged the looks of a typical English public school. Today, the college as it stands is a much larger complex with both in number of students and the buildings to accommodate its numerous educational programs, and amply justifies Warden Stone's vision of moving the college to a location that had also the potential of having ample space to enable future growth and expansion. My first impressions of the college when I joined in 1950 was of a sprawling premises, carefully tended gardens, and neatly trimmed lawns. And I told myself, this is truly an ideal environment for a seat of learning. My role today is to give you an impression of my time at college during the decade 1950 to 1960, and to reflect on the lessons learned being a student at St. Thomas's College. I joined St. Thomas's College in January 1950 in the upper fourth form coming from St. Thomas's Prep School, Kolupitia, having successfully passed a competitive entrance examination that entitled me to a place in Mount Lavinia. I studied up to College Arts A form and left college in March 1958, having obtained admission to the University of Ceylon, Pereira campus, from where I graduated in economics. As my home was in Ratnapura, I joined the college boarding house and was admitted to Chapman House Junior. One of my contemporaries in the upper fourth form in 1950 was former Warden Neville de Alves. We were classmates throughout my time at St. Thomas's and later contemporaries at university. He was one of the very few students that studied classics, Latin and Greek, and perhaps one of the last of the classic students before classical studies were phased out from the curriculum by the end of the 1950s for want or lack of students. My time at St. Thomas's was the beginning of a process that molded my character and fashioned my outlook that had a lasting impact on my life. To get an education at St. Thomas's is a unique privilege. The college has for over 150 years been one of the finest educational institutions in the country and has produced great statesmen, eminent lawyers and doctors, able and eminent civil servants and administrators and members of the judicial service, and scholars and academics. I am proud to be a product of such an institution and take great pride to have been educated at such an illustrious center of excellence. I consider this one of the glories of my life. At St. Thomas's, you are taught to be a gentleman, to conduct yourself with dignity and self-respect, to imbibe the virtues of honesty, truthfulness, respect for authority, and loyalty. I often marvel at the levels of loyalty to the college displayed by Thomians of my generation. It is so intense that you easily get carried away with emotion. I also feel grateful for the training I got in self-dependence as a member of the boarding house. I developed a sense of interdependence, team spirit, and capacity to work together, which has held me in good stead in my life. These are experiences of my time at St. Thomas's, which I cherish and often recollect. At a time when state-managed schools coexist with private schools. Students have a choice about the type of education they wish to pursue. Schools like St. Thomas's have the capacity to produce students who are employable to meet the national needs because of the quality and content of the education you get at St. Thomas's prepares you to be able to cope with contemporary challenges. Also at private schools like St. Thomas's, there is great emphasis on discipline to mold students to be respectable and law-abiding citizens. I consider it my good fortune to have been educated at St. Thomas's when Canon R.S. Diaz was the warden. Canon Diaz was one of the great wardens of 20th century St. Thomas's. Canon Diaz was the longest serving wardens of St. Thomas's, 1932 to 1959. And the college celebrated its 25 years as warden at a special ceremonial assembly at which the boys of the school presented a silver tea service to the warden to commemorate 25 years of service to the college. The presentation was made on behalf of the boys of the school by the head prefect, who on that occasion made an elegant speech, elegantly delivered, which was highly applauded by the students as well as the staff. On that occasion, I was that head prefect. I acknowledge felicitating Canon Diaz on his 25th anniversary as warden as the single most important event I participated during my time at St. Thomas's, and being the head prefect on that occasion added luxury to that experience. In 1951, the college celebrated its centenary year. The college was founded in 1851, and the Bishop of Colombo at that time, Bishop Chapman, was the main force behind the founding of the college. Numerous events were organized to celebrate the centenary year, but the major event was an exhibition and carnival held during the month of February of that year at the Vihari Mahadevi Park in Colombo. The carnival was a huge success, and the funds collected was largely used to rehabilitate the school's infrastructure that required refurbishments from the effects of the occupation of the college premises by British forces during World War II. To have been a student of St. Thomas's in its centenary year was an experience of a lifetime. And those of us who were at St. Thomas's in that centenary year take great pride of being in college when it celebrated its 100th year. Since then, the boys who were students in the centenary year has institutionalized themselves as the centenary group and renders financial support to the college to refurbish the infrastructure of the college in numerous ways. I consider my time at St. Thomas's as some of my best years in life and value the lessons I learned during that time. My message to the contemporary boys of St. Thomas's is that you're the beneficiaries of a great heritage spanning a period of more than 150 years. It's a legacy. Its legacy is a value system based on honesty, truthfulness, respect for authority, and loyalty to the college. These are the attributes you absorb being a Thomian, and it is your responsibility to conduct your lives with dignity based on a value system you learned at St. Thomas's by being a good, loyal citizen that respects the law of the land and not engage anything that will discredit and dishonor your alma mater. Esto perpetual. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ellawala. To commemorate our celebrations, a book of verse and prose on St. Thomas's College, written by the late Mr. Mervyn Chetty, who was known as the Thomian Bard, will be presented to the Warden by his son, Mr. Yohesan Chetty, who has lovingly compiled the volume. Before making the presentation, Mr. Chetty will read an excerpt from the book.
The Lord Bishop of Colombo, the Warden of St. Thomas's, the Chaplain of St. Thomas's, members of the clergy, members of the staff, members of the Board of Governors, fellow Thomians, both old and young, ladies and gentlemen. I stand before you this morning at the special General Assembly convened to commemorate the historic occasion of the 100 years that our college has been located at Mount Lavinia since it was transplanted from its original home at Mutwal. Reflecting on the centenary of the milestone that the college has reached, I thought it would be both meet and fitting to publish a selection of my late father's poetry and prose, which captures the ethos of the event we celebrate. Though both his father and grandfather were alumni of the college during the Mutwal era, my father was one of the early entrants at Mount Lavinia, having joined the college in 1920 during the stewardship of the legendary, visionary educationist Warden Stone. His studentship at college spanned the years 1920 to 1931, which included the final years of the Stone Age, the entire period when Reverend Macpherson was warden, and in his final year, the much-loved and revered Canon de Serum was the acting warden. As a third-generation Thomian with a direct line of descent dating as far back as the founding of our beloved college at Mutwal in 1851, he was, throughout his life, passionately attached to his alma mater. As an alumnus of the college, he immersed himself in the life and fortunes of the school and expressed himself both in poetry and prose over an extended period of years. The selected poems and articles contain a golden thread which runs through all of them, namely the personalities and the values that contributed immeasurably to the growth and reputation of St. Thomas's College as one of the finest educational institutions. Though being an agnostic and rationalist all his adult life, it appeared as though in his writings he was echoing the words of the Old Testament prophet Micah, who aptly, succinctly, and pithily stated in chapter 6, verse 8 of the biblical book as follows, open quote, "He hath shown thee, O man, what is good, and what doth the Lord require of thee, but to do justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with thy God." Close quote. Such diverse, pivotal values to all educationists of worth as moral rectitude, equity, compassion, tolerance, patience, perseverance, charity, simplicity, and humility are encapsulated in the biblical quotation adverted to. The character, conduct, life, and example of personalities of the caliber of Chapman, Wood, Miller, Stone, Disseram, Heyman, and Keble, who have played such an integral and crucial role in the development of the college, bear more than ample testimony to the worth, efficacy, and relevance of such values. These very values have constituted the very core and essence of what we popularly refer to as that intangible Thomian spirit. In tandem with these aforementioned values, other values having equal validity and significance are those of idealism, integrity, independence, commitment, and selflessness. Yet again, the names of Chapman, Wood, Miller, Stone, Disseram, Heyman, and Keble personify those attributes which we Thomians admire and cherish. St. Thomas's, throughout its history, has emphasized and stressed the defining importance of building character, molding lives, and the making of men as being central to a holistic education. These sterling qualities can verily be considered to form the warp and woof of a rich tapestry that we proudly refer to as our Thomian heritage. The noteworthy pioneers mentioned in his book, Journeying to the Centenary, who were veritable giants in the sphere of education, correctly emphasized the building of human lives as being preeminent in the role of education. Both Shakespeare, when he wrote, "What is the city but the people?" and Thomas Fuller, when he stated, "'Tis the men, not the houses, that make the city," stress the vital necessity of constructing human lives of worth as opposed to merely constructing edifices of brick and mortar. I do trust that the publication Journeying to the Centenary will help point the way forward to present Thomians and those entering its hallowed portals in years to come, that in the final analysis, to be a Thomian means far more than merely being a student of the college. Prior to making the formal presentation to the Warden of Journeying to the Centenary by my late father, I shall conclude these brief thoughts by reading one of his poems in the collection entitled The Alma Mater, composed half a century ago in 1968 on the occasion of the golden jubilee of the college being located at Mount Lavinia. It stands on the fringe of the ocean, the massive grey pile that has grown. I ponder with proud and emotion of the rugged old past we have known. The low Kajan roof with the half walls was dining hall, classroom and shrine. The lab and the flat-roofed main halls remain of that early design. How plain and austere our beginnings, yet planned with the future in view. Half a century later, our innings are writ in the old and the new. The chapel is witness to withers, a heroic labor of love, when all around parches and withers, it showers its grace from above. The dormitories and the main hall, the new science lab rising high, are silent stone witness of each call to answer which many did hide. The calls were an urgent reminder to those whom she nurtured in youth that the college has thousands behind her in quest of tradition and truth, all fired with fervor and burning, with a loyalty zealous and true to the tutors who gave of their learning and lives for the blue, black and blue. The men who have toiled with devotion, who strove not for profit or pelf, who wrecked not for gain or promotion, but sacrificed future and self. We pride in the pool and the 5 scots, in the giants who passed into fame, whose prowess in studies and all sports have earned for the college a name. Be thou forever and flourish, and serve Mother Lanka as well. As you did in the past, may you nourish the thirsty who drink at your well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kasichetti. Our next speaker, Mr. J.D. Bandaranaike, was the head prefect of the college from 1966 to 1967. Upon leaving St. Thomas's, he joined the Ceylon Tobacco Company as a management trainee. He has served on the boards of directors in companies such as Coca-Cola, Finlay's, Haley's, Union Assurance, and Sampath Bank. He has also served as the chairman of Central Finance Company PLC until last year. Additionally, he has served as the chairman and director general of the Board of Investment of Sri Lanka and as the chairman of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce. A graduate of law, Mr. Bandaranaike is also a fellow of a number of professional bodies of the country. It is with pleasure that I invite Mr. Bandaranaike to address this special assembly.
Lord Bishop of Colombo, the venerable members of the clergy, the warden, the staff of the college, distinguished invitees, and most importantly, the students of St. Thomas's. I am humbled at being invited to represent the 60s, and I wish to thank the warden and the committee responsible for identifying me as a person to do so. My association went back to the time I was dropped off, not too far away from here, to the Chapman B dorm, when we had in the hostel over 300 boarders. However, within the first week, to my horror, I learned how I was born. This was by one smart Alec, and sadly, he never moved on to be the professor of obstetrics and gynecology, despite his vast knowledge that he displayed at a tender age. The point of the story is that you learn so much more outside the formal classrooms. Being left in the deep end, you learn to survive and to hone your and sharpen your skills. That's an important lesson. My other point of interest, particularly to the students of St. Thomas's, was that towards the tail end of my career, I, as the captain of the school cricket team, I had the privilege of having a future warden in the team, and that was Dr. David Ponaya. And he was not only an excellent cricketer, but he broke a record at the Royal Thomaian with the first century by a fresher in the Royal Thomaian series. So I'm glad that in an arguable way that I've also contributed to the development of future leaders of the very school itself to sharpen their skill and blossom to their full potential. Now, with this very personal and light introduction, let me now deal with the more serious subject on some thoughts and ideas that I've been asked to express. Now, students quite naturally become the product of the wider society in which they operate. The 60s was substantially different to today. It was a time before the internet revolutionized the world. It was a time where we did not grow up with Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, or Twitter. It was a time when documents were saved in cupboards and in filing cabinets and not in the cloud. In the 60s, politically, the country was in a period of radical social change. Large sections of the community felt neglected, but following the elections of the mid-50s, they felt that they had been liberated. Following this change, Ceylon, as it was then known, embraced the path of socialism, leaving the then Soviet bloc. Nationalization and price controls were the order of the day. Control of choice was the way forward. In contrast, the students of today lived in a world of great choice. Choice not just what to eat and wear, but also in terms of career options and goals to achieve in life. With greater opportunities, young Thomaians should therefore not believe that success is judged by the assets and wealth accumulation. They should be conscious of the human qualities that they display. Without a proper balance, you will not accomplish the overall success as human beings. In this context, I believe that STC always had and will continue to have an invaluable role to play in preparing the young men of today for positions of responsibility and leadership befitting the needs of the day. Now, the previous speakers and other to follow will possibly touch on what made them who they are and what values they cherish. I wish to speak a little differently on the expectations of a Thomaian of tomorrow. In a nutshell, I would like to see the young men of tomorrow being resourceful, responsible, hardworking, and disciplined. Responsibility comes, as we all know, in a variety of ways, and that's the responsibility to the family, the community, country, and increasingly the environment. They should be committed to uphold values such as honesty, integrity, empathy, tolerance, and having an abiding commitment to be just and fair. The Thomian DNA will, I hope, make the concern for the community as a part of it, and Thomians will make it their just cause to uplift the fellow countrymen and women who are disadvantaged. The test of success here is not judged by a few, but by many, and that too not in short bursts, but over the entire life of an adult person. Embracing good values and traits early and abiding by them consistently and with perseverance are, in my view, the keys to success. I hope the Thomian fraternity, and in particularly the students, will embrace some of what they have heard today, and the community at large will continue to say that Thomians as a group are a set of remarkable men contributing positively to the country. This is how we all are duty-bound to honor and to pay back to the college for the immense contribution they have made in shaping and developing our us as individuals. You might wonder how these desired traits are acquired. The college, through its extracurricular activities, provides so many opportunities for the involvement of students in sports, societal activities, debating, scouting, cadetting, leadership roles as monitors, prefects, and many others. There were teachers with a high sense of duty and great commitment, mentoring and guiding the students through their stay in school. My advice to the students is to fully immerse yourself in the life of the college and its many activities. You will not have as safe a learning environment as you have at STC in the world outside. In an ever-increasing competitive world, your abilities beyond success at examinations, such as your non-academic strengths and capabilities, will give you that edge to make a difference. Hence, it is important that you actively participate in extracurricular activities and benefit from the mature guidance that you will gain from your teachers at STC. This is the wonderful gift that all Thomians receive from this institution. I hope that in going forward, the college authorities too periodically assess the needs and bring about the necessary changes to ensure that the school continues to remain relevant in its long journey ahead. Now, in this 100-year celebrations, I want to suggest to the Warden and the Board of Governors to consider, debate, and assess the practicalities of documenting what are known as STC values and traits that the college holds dear. Although perhaps currently nebulous and ill-defined, these are the essential behavioral traits that the college desires the students to emulate in school and beyond. Should STC be successful in capturing and codifying them, it will be useful not only to the students of STC, but it will over time be picked up by other schools. It could potentially be adopted island-wide, which can be a useful national contribution and a platform for nation building to celebrate the country's progress. What a gift it would be to celebrate the 100 years at Mount Lavinia. With this thought, I thought I will conclude my talk, and I wish the college all success in its journey over the next century. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bandaranaike. Our next speaker is Mr. K.M. Wijegunawardena. Mr. Wijegunawardena served St. Thomas's College as head prefect in 1978. He currently serves the nation as the Secretary to the Ministry of Defense, appointed by the President and the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces since July 2017. He obtained a bachelor's degree in arts with a specialization in economics, and a master's degree in international relations from the University of Colombo. Following his legal studies at the Sri Lanka Law College, he was enrolled as an attorney of the Supreme Court of Sri Lanka in 1982. He is also a solicitor for Wales and United Kingdom. Mr. Ratna was appointed a President Counsel in 2015 for his unblemished service record and his noteworthy contribution to the legal profession in Sri Lanka. It gives me great honor to invite Mr. Ratna to address us.
My Lord, the Bishop of Colombo, Warden, sir, members of the Board of Governors, members of the staff, old Thomians and the young, ladies and gentlemen. After the great men and the speeches, I'm in mind of the time constraints and that do not permit to honor the entire 100 years history of this great school, but permit me to refer to a note and to say a few words of an era of this great institution that I was associated. Allow me at the outset to remember with gratitude and great affection the extraordinary influence of much loved and respected wardens of our time on whom the turf lies lightly upon today, namely Warden Davidson, Warden Selvaratnam, Warden Anandanayagam, and Warden Lin Ilangakun. And our much loved teachers, some of who are present here today, and some of who have gone to their eternal rest, to whom we bow our heads with great reverence. Friends, the essence of success of St. Thomas's College is no accident. It derives from our founding values. Teachers stand at the threshold of young lives and place a firm stamp on the student's future. We all remember this experience even after 50 years. to speak on behalf of my colleagues, I spoke with my fellow schoolmates. And the first thing that emerged was that the people of our era ended up in places and careers they could have not even have envisaged as even possible when they left college. Many of us have had different experiences in our lives after leaving college. On the other hand, many have moved into quiet, normal lives without much drama. But common to us all is that they have carried with them the values that they have experienced at St. Thomas's College. And they have perhaps raised a strongly values-centered family while excelling in their chosen fields. The main point is that when students leave school, even back in 1970, they could end up anywhere. Their future is even more uncertain today. But what matters is being prepared for life, one that may be well confronted with radical change. Indeed, my colleagues, during our days at college, we always maintained that what mattered was learning to live with difference, to understand, to be with others, no matter from where they came, learning to understand and embrace the cultural diversity and social justice. Friends, to Thomians of my era, it was an unwritten rule that the children walk into the school and everybody is equal. The passion and drive to achieve our basic ingredients in the recipe for success. But sir, St. Thomas's taught us not necessarily to achieve according to status achieved, wealth possessed, the external indicators of success. Instead, we were inculcated in the achieving in terms of life well lived, caring for engaging with others, no matter from where they come or where they are situated within the social hierarchy. The values behind education at St. Thomas's College are a recipe for humanity's survival, for they build character and social understanding by which our society can cooperate to deal with the uncertain future, along with passion and drive. At core is learning to engage with the human center of all existence. This is the inheritance that we received from college, which was handed over the years by our founding father. Values that will equip generations of Thomians over the years. Esto perpetua. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you for those words, sir. A special song written by one of our very talented senior old boys in the entertainment world, Mr. Pereira, to commemorate our great alma mater, will now be sung by the Canto Perpetua Choir of the college, accompanied by the band. Our next speaker is Mr. V.P.W. Wijegunawardena. He was head prefect of the college from 1989 to 1990 and vice captain of the cricket team from 1988 to 1989. He holds a bachelor's degree in business administration and management from the University of Reading and a master's degree in financial economics from the University of Colombo. He captained his university cricket team in 1994. He currently serves as the Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission of Sri Lanka. He has also served a number of corporations such as National Wealth Corporations and Aviva Insurance. We warmly invite Mr. Wijegunawardena to say a few words.
Lord Bishop of Colombo, Warden Sir, members of the Board of Governors, members of the staff, old Thomians and young Thomians, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to share some recollections from my school days at St. Thomas's and how it has assisted me to be who I am today. In year 1979, I walked into college for the first time along with my parents to the boarding, which was called the Winchester for the boys in the lower school. And I was handed over to a very strict disciplinarian of a matron called Mrs. Senaris. The routine would start by waking up at 5 in the morning, which we hated at that time. A period of study prior to going for breakfast to the dining hall in a line, then getting ready by myself to leave to the classrooms. After school, a time to rest and a time to play, what we boys used to really look forward to. Thereafter, freshening up in the evening to get ready again for a session of studying, prior to lining up to go for dinner and then early bed. We also learned to respect the environment at college and grew up appreciating the beauty of the surrounding. All this instilled discipline in me from my early days of student life, which comes naturally to me now without any effort. And we were always taught to do what is right. This has helped me to go a long way in my personal and professional life, where compliance with rules and regulations and general accepted norms are very important. At our time at college, any deviations would result in punishments in the form of caning. And I must admit, I have also got caned for things I was not even responsible for. However, what happened at college remained at college, and we took it in the best spirit. Our parents wouldn't even know. However, I realized as a parent, I would not encourage such disciplinary measures we were subjected to, as times have changed and there are other means of disciplining children. Playtime ensured ample opportunities to interact with students from different backgrounds, religious beliefs and opinions. We made friends with all and learned to accept one another for who they are. The social skills acquired and nurtured over the years at college has been useful for me in my adult and professional life, as we had to respect people and accept them for who they are, thereby becoming sensitive human beings. While being at school, the spirit of togetherness and unity in the boarding and engagement in team sports from a very young age inculcated the skill of accepting the different strengths of each individual in pursuance to attain a common objective. I still remember me being engaged in swimming, hockey, basketball, table tennis, athletics, and cricket, which has taught me one of the most important lessons in my professional career: to work as a team and to respect one's opinion. The skill of leadership was acquired by me at a very young age by captaining the under-15A and under-17A cricket sides, and was a vice captain of the first 11 cricket team in my third year, but captained the entirety of the third term as a result of the captain being sent on a scholarship overseas. The fourth year, which I was tipped to captain, did not realize as a result of a rule change, which was famously known as the September Rule, where I was overaged by 1 month and a day. In hindsight, one could argue that this was a blessing in disguise, as we lost the Royal Thomaian cricket match in 1990, and that would have established a record in the history books, which would probably have lasted for decades, as two brothers having captained and lose in the big match. As unfortunately, we lost the big Royal Thomaian under my brother's captaincy, which was heartbreaking for me at the time. Being a school prefect and eventually being appointed the head prefect of college was the proudest moment in my entire school career, along with being awarded the Victoria Gold Medal for the best all-round student subsequently, and being awarded the batting shield during the season for the highest aggregate during the season that we won the Royal Thomaian in 1988 after 24 years. All this has currently helped me. The different leadership roles at college had honed my leadership skills, which have come very handy in my professional life, which I currently serve as a Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission of Sri Lanka, the apex regulator of the capital market, including the Stock Exchange of Sri Lanka. And I'm also proud to say that it was when I was head prefect that the current warden, Mark Bilimoria, was appointed a school prefect. Whilst I spoke about the past, I would like to speak about what we as Thomaians, especially the young, needs to expect to face the next 100 years. In one's personal and professional life, one has to face many challenges, and you will not be able to face such challenges if your integrity and honesty is called into question. No matter what university you would qualify in, people will always relate to the school you went to. Hence, learn to earn the respect of others through your conduct and never let your school down. The difference between people who are successful and those who are not is the ability to learn from mistakes and having the determination to get better at what one likes to do. Excellence is nothing to do with talent, but what one does with it. This is where attitude matters. If you have a goal in life, you have to work hard. A lot of people give up too easily without giving their best. The overall journey is arduous, long and difficult, and full of challenges. One should never give up. A big mistake a lot of people do today is to attempt to achieve their goals in the shortest possible time. If the goal was to reach the summit of the mountain, remember, you have to first see and then climb the mountain. If the skills you acquire are put into best use and earn the respect of others, the results would always follow. Hence, remember not to be impatient to reach your goals and learn to be patient. There are no shortcuts. Learn to enjoy life as job fulfillment, joy, self-confidence takes time. Today, we see less people getting out there and engaging in outdoor activities and being influenced by social media driven by digital technology. I cannot stress the importance of developing deep and meaningful relationships with your peers, rather than be overly influenced by social media and spend too much time on digital devices, where you won't have time to interact with others in the real world, where life is far more different to what is being reflected through social media. Also remember, stress and disappointments are part and parcel of everyone's life. You need to learn to ask for help when needed and talk and discuss such issues with those closest to you. There is no app to measure job satisfaction and strength of relationships. None of us are winners all the time. We fail, we lose, we are disappointed, but we must always remember as Thomaians to bounce back. While learning to cope with all disappointments, the way forward is to get up and start afresh. I wish to point out how fortunate the present Thomaians are in terms of facilities that are there which we never had. Please appreciate and make full use of all these facilities to be responsible citizens that college can be proud of. Also remember to find a balance between studies and engaging in any sports or other extracurricular activities. An additional point to remember, which we did not have at the time, is to strike a balance between your school activities, be it studies, sports, and time spent on digital devices and social media. We all have other interests and passions, I strongly urge everyone to pursue such interests because even in one's professional life, you need to take your mind off from the demands of corporate life. My interest was appreciating the nature of our beautiful island and wildlife photography, where I have had 2 exhibitions of my photographs and published a coffee table book on the Sri Lankan elephant, which is currently the best-selling coffee table book in Sri Lanka. I also wish to remind the teachers that children have different capabilities, and they should be given the freedom to think freely and encourage imagination, thus promoting creativity and innovation. May I conclude by congratulating the present Thomian fraternity for celebrating this milestone in a meaningful way. And let me wish all those present here and to those who would come in the future to uphold our Thomian traditions and strive to be the most respected citizens of Sri Lanka. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wijegunawardena. Our next speaker today is Dr. N.G.R. Pereira, head prefect of the college in 1992. After a very distinguished academic and sporting record at St. Thomas's, during which he captained first 15 Raga in 1990, the basketball team.
My Lord Bishop of Colombo, Warden Sir, members of the clergy, distinguished guests, staff and students of St. Thomas's College, ladies and gentlemen. I am both deeply humbled and extremely honored to be invited to express a few thoughts reflecting back on the decade of the 90s. As a student at the college and its later impact after St. Thomas's. I thank you, Warden Sir. It means a lot to me. The era saw Warden Diaz continue to take the college to great heights in many a sphere. Yet here, I draw on my own experience, mainly as a sportsman at St. Thomas's. I also focus on 3 sports in particular: rugby football, basketball, and athletics. 3 sports that I have been very much a part of from the very beginning of my studentship, having joined college in 1978. 3 sports that I was blessed with the opportunity to captain the college teams in the year 1990. These sports established many firsts in the history of the college. It was in this decade that college basketball for the first time competed for and then won A Division championships honors. Not once, but many times over, from the senior teams all the way down to the juniors. I am happy to say in 2006, after 17 years, we have done it again. In athletics, many records were established at the highest level that have stood for long periods of time. Although Thermians have been achieving these standards in the past, it is the regularity which it occurred in this decade that stands out. But probably the greatest achievement is the sustained excellence in rugby football. St. Thomas's College was the inaugural winners of the school's rugby league, the Milo Trophy as it was known in the day, in 1990. We won again in 1991 with our goal line uncrossed. We are always reminded of the years we won everything at the senior level, but we lapse to know that in those golden years, the junior teams won too, and thus they continued to compete at the highest level throughout the decade. It was a complete formula for excellence, right through the system. A program with a focus on playing the sport the right way, with the right fundamentals. Thus, the culture of winning came natural. I attribute this to steady leadership and guidance we received from the administration, teachers, and coaches. Coincidentally, in many instances, our teachers were our coaches. It was the overall care we received in our junior years that took fruition at senior levels. We were blessed with mentors in the true sense of the word, those who always carried a holistic view of circumstances in whatever they undertook, imbued us with proper morals and ethics that is expected of a true Thomian sportsman. Father Dick Chekera, my rugby and basketball coach, although he left us in the 90s, had a profound impact. Mr. Quintin Israel, Mr. Lal Kumar Singha, Mr. M.E.C. Pereira rugby, Mr. Aputaraja and Mr. N.M. Pereira for athletics, and Mr. Samuel for basketball stand out in my experience. From these esteemed individuals, we learned the value of first principles, the basics, the fundamentals. A steady focus on basics allowed total understanding of a process, such that in learning the simple steps, we were able to translate or program our learning into any complex manner we chose. These aspects came naturally, with guidance, with practice, with repetition and application. They were never over-intellectualized or over-discussed. Having understood the fundamentals, it sets vast opportunities for modification, enhancement, and innovation. This approach dwells deep in my own psyche, and therefore very much part of my creative and teaching career. In my own philosophical approach to architectural design, research, and teaching, my mantra dictates, every challenge, task, or responsibility deserves maximum effort, a positive outlook, and a unique approach to a distinctive set of circumstances. I returned to rugby, and in particular, a particular motivational speech by our coach Quintin Israel before a crucial fixture, where he draws on selected lines of the poem If by Kipling. I quote, "If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so to hold on when there is nothing in you, except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and which is you, what is more, you will be a man, my son." These were fighting words for us on the field, yet delivered with poise, love, and respect, simply to give it our all. The quiet strength of the gesture is what absolutely resonates. In hindsight, looking back at this experience, these few lines in particular, uttered to a rugby team psyched up to get on the field, and now reflecting on the totality of the poem, to me it epitomizes the true Thomian spirit. It exemplifies the Thomian out in the world. The standards we have set for ourselves are not easily accepted. We are looked upon sometimes with envy. We often face opposition, but with integrity, grace, we overcome. The consistency and perseverance in our responsibilities we undertake, we win over. We are imbued with the virtue of being able to interact with people of all walks of life, the ability to bring out the best in them, thus sustain excellence. Then there is a revered Thomian grit that is continually inculcated in us. We draw on this doctrine time and time again in all our endeavors. It is the substance of a true champion, a true Thomian, to never give up. Estopa Pachua. Thank you and God bless you all.
Thank you, Dr. Pereira, for those inspiring words. In the 1950s, the longest-serving warden of the college, Canon R.S. Diseram, introduced the Hela Parthenon to the college and encouraged the teaching of the national languages of Sinhala and Tamil. Dr. Vinny Vitharana, Mr. Wijegunawardena, Kalasuri Arasen Ahubudu, Mr. D.S. Jayasekara, and Mr. Pereira, among others, were brought on board to teach Sinhala, and great teachers of Tamil, like Mr. C. Sachidanandan, were also recruited. STC has thus always given our national languages their rightful place in our education system. And even today, we have great masters of Sinhala, like Mr. Denzel De Silva, still teaching us. Within this tradition, some of our young Thomians came forward this week with a last-minute offering for the Centenary of a song composed by them, which they will now perform. The lyrics of this song have been written by K.A.T.G. Tamudita, while the music was composed by M.D.R.P. Fernando, S. Piris, and K.A.T.G. Tamudita of the college forms.
Wasaka vidua biman me randava siya dahas kanan toma suputunge desa paduvamin hela dayana gannata niti parami puramin Toma suputun dada agamini kirula deru Ibu paya idiriyata matabamin Saya gosanang ba Varagati adam benda halimin Hela daya abadikara Rana bime, Lisa bime, Nangu Kindurabe Apa habe no make Legirabe අතරේ සුරුවිරු කම්පාමින් ඔබගේ දුරුලේ නිති ගුණ දම් පුරමින් ජයදැඹ ඔස්සේ නොමැගේ අප තැබුවේ පාසටහන් සහද දැනුවගේ වැලිදූලිද සිබිනා කල බැතිපෙන් අදෙහි නැගේ අවිසෙස් නංවමින් ජයතැඹ දිනනගේ වැජබේවා සැමදා කොමසුමවුනි මගේ සිත්කිරි බොවමින් සහද තැනුවගේ වැලිදූලිද සිමිනා කල බැතිපෙම් අදෙහි නැගේ අවිසෙස් නංවමින් ජයතැඹ දිනනගේ වැජබේවා සැමදා නොමසුමවුනි මගේ රම්බාල එන්තායාරියතුමා නමදිමි ඔබෙ පාපියුම් තොමසුමවුනි මගේ
Our next speaker this morning is Mr. D.S. Rajasingham, head prefect of the college from 2009 to 2010. He is a Fulbright scholar currently studying for his master's degree. He presently serves as a lecturer in law at the University of Jaffna. He is also a consultant for the public outreach program of the Constitutional Assembly Secretariat of the Parliament of Sri Lanka. In 2015, Mr. Rajasingham qualified from the Sri Lanka Law College with a first class and was ranked first at the Faculty of Law, University of Colombo for his LLB. While at college, he was the captain of the English debating team, editor of the college magazine, and captained the Sri Lanka School's national debate team. I now invite Mr. Rajasingham to address the gathering.
My Lord, the Bishop of Colombo, distinguished invitees, Warden Sir, Sub-Warden Sir, members of staff, my fellow Thomians, both young and old. It's nearly a decade since I last stood at a school assembly, and it is a true honor and privilege to be here. Of course, I remember that as a student, whether I was in the lower fourth form standing upstairs and enjoying the sea breeze, or waiting in rather warm conditions at the back as an upper sixth former, the question that always ran through my mind during assembly was, when is this going to finish? And so, in that spirit, let me keep my words brief and mention three things that I learned from St. Thomas's College. The first is about tradition. We hear a lot about it, and tradition at its best is rich and wonderful. It reminds you that there were many others shaped by this institution, that you're part of something much larger than yourself. It opens your eyes to the past, and that can change how you see the present. But there is also another side to tradition. When I and several others were appointed school prefects, we were taken to a room upstairs where we were kept beaten and abused by a group of seniors for several hours. This practice was widespread at the time despite efforts by the administration to end it. And of course, we were told that this was tradition. There were 4 of us from my batch appointed on that day. Presidents of clubs and societies, captains of sport, one of the first students to win the Thomian Blue, a mixed group. And yet we all knew, without anyone having to tell us, that there was something deeply wrong with this particular tradition. And we all decided that the violence had to stop. This was not some heroic decision. Personally, I felt several times that it would be much easier to let things continue as they were. We had guidance and support from all sorts of places, and even with that, we made plenty of mistakes and saw our share of failures. Yet this experience taught us to question things. This is how things are done can never, on its own, be good enough reason to keep doing them. And this is as true in the school van, the classroom, and the sports team as it is in government or business or politics. Thomians must have an abiding discontent, a desire to ask the question, do things need to be changed? And that is one lesson that I learned from my time at St. Thomas's. The second lesson is about Thomian humility. Thomian pride has its place, not so much as us believing that we are amazing, but more, I think, the kind of pride a son might have in his father. A deep sense of respect, of admiration, of gratitude that we had a chance to be associated with this school. But Thomian humility, I think, is also essential. And by Thomian humility, I simply mean a willingness to listen to people who are different to you and a willingness to be changed by what they say. And I learned this, in fact, as I left school and entered a local university. Here I met a friend of mine named Chintaka from Baduraliya. Not good, definitely not in the first year. He was the first person from...
Now, I am liberated to try new things, to push my limits, and to strive for greatness. St. Thomas's has instilled in me only the best kind of stubbornness, which is a steadfast hold that is just. Nevertheless, all of us are in spirit that won't let us stop fighting, and in all her values, some of which I listed before. I have faith in its ability to take me through whatever is waiting for me outside these gates. And I'm sure it is St. Thomas's. How lucky we are to call this patch of land in Mount Lavinia our refuge.
We bleed blue, black and blue. We're staunch and true through travails old and new. The color within the hue to rise with grit and valor, to stand by each other, crossing endless oceans with heavy hearts. Fly away, far across the stars. We are not afraid. We we are one. We fly away, far across the skies. We are not afraid, forever one. The dove appears, the serpent shrewd. A century in mounts, a legacy crown. No shadow taller, no hurdle too hard. Upon life's stage, we play our part to rise with grit and valor, to stand by each other, crossing endless oceans with heavy hearts. Fly away, far across the stars. We are not afraid, we are one. We fly away, far across the skies. We are not afraid, forever one. Fly away, far across the skies. We are not afraid, we are one. We fly away, far across the skies. We are not afraid, forever one.
I'd now like to invite the Warden to speak a few words about the reprinted memorials of Bishop Chapman and to present the first copy to the Lord Bishop of Colombo.
For 100 years, we have punished you with the 3-hour assembly. There is Kiribat to reward you for the 3-hour assembly afterwards, and a nice piece of cake waiting for you outside. Bertel and I had a conversation when we started the process of preparing for this celebration. And one of the things that we discussed was, why not put out a publication? There were 2 publications we talked about. One was the 100 Years at Mount Updated History, that will come out in June. But for this occasion, we thought, let's speak to Vijitayappa and see whether he can reprint Bishop Chapman's memorials. About a year ago, just before he passed away, Mr. Bertie Wijegunawardena presented me with his copy of Bishop Chapman's memorials, which had been presented to him by Canon Disserum, who in turn had received it as a gift way back in the 1930s. A first edition copy of Bishop Chapman's memorials. It was falling apart, but Uncle Bertie wanted me to have it. And so we went to Vijitayappa with this, and Vijitayappa very graciously said, let's do it. And we thought it would be a book that would be valuable to all Thomians, Anglicans in this country as well. And they went ahead with the publication. It's my pleasure to present the first copy of the book to the Bishop, and you may purchase your copies on the way out. There's a stall outside.
I now invite the Warden to tell us about a surprise item on the agenda.
On occasions like this, we have to acknowledge that the greatness of the school owes a lot to those who guided its destinies over the years. We have in our midst two of the three past wardens of the college, and it was our decision that we honor them this morning or this afternoon as part of our celebrations for their contribution and their role, their part, the part they played in the history of these 100 years in the time that they spent here. So it's my great privilege to invite our bishop to make a very small token presentation of appreciation to first Warden David Ponnaya and then Warden N.G.R. de Souza. We had also prepared to make presentations to Sub-Warden Harshana and Sub-Warden Pakyanathan, but unfortunately they had to leave us. They can't put me on detention because I am now their successor.
Thank you, Warden, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, as the Warden mentioned before, the memorials of Bishop James Chapman and the collection of prose and verse by the late Mr. Mervyn Kasi Chetty will be available for sale at the souvenir stall outside the main hall, along with other valuable souvenirs to commemorate 100 years at Mount Lavinia. I now invite our Sub-Warden, Mr. Asanka Pereira, to propose the vote of thanks.
My Lord Bishop, Warden, members of the Board of Governors, chaplains, members of the clergy, Special Events Committee, special invitees, members of the tutorial and administrative staff, old boys, well-wishers, present boys, ladies and gentlemen. I consider it an honor and a privilege to offer our thanks to so many who have helped to make this day a reality. I wish to say a very special word of thanks to our distinguished old boy speakers this morning, Air Chief Marshal Deshamania P.H. Mendis, Mr. W.T. Ellawala, Mr. J.D. Bandaranaike, Mr. K.M. Ratna, Mr. V.P.W. Wijegunawardena, Dr. N.G.R. Pereira, and Mr. D.S. Rajasingham. Thank you, sirs, for your inspirational speeches and anecdotes you have shared with us this morning and afternoon. You are true testaments to everything Thomian, and I offer you a heartfelt thanks for accepting the Warden's invitation to address this gathering. A special thanks is due to the Bishop Emeritus Dulip Chikera, who was preacher in the service this morning. I would also like to say a special thanks to Mr. Priya Peris, Mr. Suresh De Silva, and Mr. Tennyson Napoleon, and the group of present boys led by K.A.T.G. Tamudita, for having put in a lot of time and effort and composed the three beautiful songs which you heard today. Your work, gentlemen, will enter the books of history. Thank you, Priya, for getting song recorded, even when you were not able to talk due to illness. And thank you, Suresh and Tennyson, for all the hours spent in the studio mixing the track and for training our boys to perform. The exercise of pulling off the events on a day like today is due to efforts of many who have worked tirelessly behind the scenes. And I ask you to please bear with me as I offer our thanks to all for their effort and for their hard work and dedication. I wish to place on record our thanks to quite a number of our staff members who have worked very hard over the last few months to contribute toward the success of today's festivities. Ms. Michelle Herft for helping out with everything from coordinating the media to proofreading to encouraging the staff to take part in the cycle parade tomorrow, to getting things organized for this morning and a lot more in connection with the 100-year celebrations. Mrs. Ratnaike with Mr. Mailal Virakon and Mr. Vinod Senadira for training the Western Band and Choir respectively. And very especially, Ms. Kisholi Mathiparanam for working long hours of the day and evening with a bunch of about 50 to 60 boys in order to get the special songs just right for the occasion. The dynamic Jennifer Bartholomews and Mrs. Nadaraja for making beautiful this hall and the chapel with decor this morning. Thank you both for your hard work. My thanks is due to Mr. Mohan Abesinghe from Dynamic KV, for he, without batting an eyelid, provided a sound system for us to use this morning in the chapel, together with a technician at no cost. Thank you, sir, for your generosity. Mr. and Mrs. Bertel Pinto Jayawardena, backed with the Special Events Committee, for providing us with the bust of Warden Stone, which was unveiled this morning. Mr. Arjun Abe Ratna, for running around and coordinating last-minute things which needed done. Mr. Ajit and Mr. Krishan, together with a group of very hard-working support staff members, for staying up late into the nights, making sure everything was in place for today. The gratitude we have for the work you do cannot be expressed in words. Sahaya Sevaka Mahatmahatvaruni, Obage Dahadiyan Mema Pasalata Karna Sevaya Api Agaya Karamu. Obasamata Stuti. My thanks to the Scouts for their hard work in working through the night and putting up the welcome pandal. The ICT Club, the Photography Club, the Media Unit, and the Red Cross Society, together with their teachers and masters in charge, and all those who helped towards the festivities of the day. Thanks to all the members of the OTCU for single-handedly organizing the entire parade, including decorating the streets from Mutwal to Mount Lavinia, which is scheduled to take place tomorrow. For Mr. Kanendan, together with the class teachers and heads of sections, for assisting with the sponsorship card sales for the parade tomorrow. Finally, thank you one and thank you all for being here with us and spending this morning and afternoon with us as we celebrate this significant milestone in the life of the school as one family, separated and different in many ways, but united in the love for the school, our alma mater. May she grow from strength to strength as she nurtures the young, molding them into men and gentlemen always. And may we, who are products of her, remember that she owes us nothing, but we owe her everything for all we have and are. Thank you, God bless you, Estu Perpetua, may you flourish forever.
Before I invite the Lord Bishop to pronounce the benediction, just a couple of announcements. At the end of assembly, after we sing the college song, we will move out to the front of the hall where we will cut a special cake that has been provided for the occasion, as usual, very generously by Pereira. And we will then move to the dining hall for refreshments while the boys will have an extended time of freedom before 1:30 bell and going home. So invitees and staff, please make your way to the dining hall after we have the cutting of the cake at the entrance of the hall. May I now invite His Lordship to pronounce the benediction, after which we will stand and sing the college song in its entirety this morning or this afternoon as we bring this assembly to a close.
Go out into the world in peace. Be of good courage. Hold fast to that which is good. Render to no one evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the afflicted. Honor everyone. Love and serve the Lord, rejoicing in the power of the Holy Spirit. And now may the blessing of God Almighty, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit be among you and remain with you always. Amen.